The Midnight Collector. The old clock tower stood tall in the center of Milbrook, its shadow falling across the cobblestone streets like a dark finger pointing toward secrets. Every night at midnight, the townspeople would hear footsteps echoing from within its walls, though no one had climbed those stairs in over 50 years. Marcus Reed was the town's night watchman. He walked the empty streets with his lantern, checking doors and windows. People said he was brave, but Marcus knew better. He was just stubborn. Too stubborn to believe in ghost stories. Too stubborn to quit his job when strange things started happening. The trouble began 3 months ago when old Mrs. Patterson went missing. She lived alone near the clock tower and often complained about hearing voices at night. The police searched everywhere but found nothing. Then Mr. Thompson disappeared 2 weeks later. He was walking home from the tavern when he simply vanished into thin air. Marcus had been keeping notes in a small black book. He wrote down every strange sound, every missing person, every odd shadow he saw. The pattern was clear to him even if no one else wanted to see it. All the missing people lived near the clock tower. All of them disappeared on nights when the moon was dark. Tonight was another new moon. Marcus stood at the bottom of the tower, looking up at its weathered stones. The iron door at the base was locked tight, just as it had been for decades. But the footsteps were already starting. Slow, heavy steps climbing the spiral stairs inside. "Who's up there?" Marcus called out, his voice echoing off the stone walls around him. The footsteps stopped. Then came a voice, soft and whispery like autumn leaves. "Come up, Marcus. Come see what I've been collecting." Marcus felt his blood turn cold. No one should know his name. No one should be able to speak from inside that locked tower. But his curiosity was stronger than his fear. He had to know what was happening to his town. The lock on the door was old and rusty. Marcus had learned to pick locks during his younger days, when he wasn't always on the right side of the law. His hands shook as he worked the metal picks, but finally, the lock clicked open. The door swung inward with a long, loud creak. Cold air rushed out, carrying the smell of dust and something else. Something sweet and rotten at the same time. Marcus held up his lantern and stepped inside. The spiral staircase wound upward into darkness. Each step Marcus took echoed loudly in the narrow space. About halfway up, he found the first strange thing. Carved into the stone wall were names. Dozens and dozens of names, scratched deep into the rock. Marcus held his lantern closer and read them. Sarah Mitchell, 1823. Jonathan Blake, 1847. Elizabeth Carter, 1869. The list went on and on. At the bottom of the wall were newer names carved more roughly. Mrs. Patterson, Mr. Thompson. "You found my list," came the whisper from above. "Each one was special, Marcus. Each one had something I needed." Marcus climbed faster, his heart pounding. At the top of the stairs was a heavy wooden door. It stood slightly open, and pale light spilled through the crack. Marcus pushed it open and stepped into the clock tower's upper room. What he saw made him drop his lantern. It clattered to the floor but didn't break, casting wild shadows across the walls. The room was filled with glass jars, hundreds of them, arranged on shelves that reached from floor to ceiling. Each jar glowed with a soft, cold light. In the center of the room stood a figure. It looked like a man, but too tall, too thin. Its skin was pale as moonlight, and its eyes were holes of darkness. It wore clothes from another time, a long black coat and a tall hat. "Welcome, Marcus," the figure said. Its voice was like wind through empty rooms. "I am the collector. I have been waiting for you." Marcus tried to speak, but his voice wouldn't work. He stared at the glowing jars. Inside each one was something that looked like light, but moved like it was alive. Some were bright white, others were colored gold, blue, red. "You want to know what they are?" the collector said, moving closer. "These are memories, Marcus. Happy memories, stolen from the people of this town. Mrs. Patterson's wedding day. Mr. Thompson's first kiss. The joy of every person who has ever lived in Milbrook." The collector reached for one of the jars. Inside, golden light swirled and danced. "This one is from a little girl's birthday party 50 years ago. Such pure happiness. I took it just before I took her. Marcus found his voice. You killed them? Not killed, the collector said with a smile that showed too many teeth. Collected. Their bodies lie below in the foundation of this tower. But their happy memories live forever in my jars. Marcus looked around the room with new horror. There were so many jars. How many people had died to fill them? Why do you do this? The collector touched another jar, this one filled with blue light. I was once human, like you, but I lived a life without joy, without happiness. When I died, I found I could not rest. I was drawn to the happiness of others, hungry for what I never had. The creature moved between the shelves, touching jars like a parent checking on sleeping children. So I learned to take it, to steal joy and keep it forever. The town's happiness feeds me, sustains me, and in return, I protect Milbrook from other dangers. Protect? Marcus laughed bitterly. You're murdering innocent people. I take only what I need, the collector said. One person every few months, and always those who have lived full lives, who have had their share of joy. It's a fair trade. Marcus backed toward the stairs, but the door slammed shut behind him. You can't leave now, Marcus. You've seen too much, but I have a different plan for you. The collector gestured to an empty jar sitting on a small table. You see, I need someone to help me, someone to walk the streets, to watch and listen, to find the happiest people in town. Someone to bring them to me. Never, Marcus said. Oh, but you will, the collector replied. Because if you don't, I'll take everyone. Every man, woman, and child in Milbrook. I'll drain this town of every happy memory it has ever known. Marcus felt trapped. The room seemed to be getting smaller, the jars glowing brighter. There has to be another way. The collector tilted its head, considering. Perhaps you could take my place. Become the new collector. I could rest at last, and you could choose how to use this power. You could be more merciful than I have been. What would happen to you? I would fade away, finally able to find peace. But you would become like me, hungry for happiness, feeding on joy. It's not a life, Marcus. It's an existence. Marcus looked at the hundreds of jars surrounding him. Each one represented a stolen moment, a life cut short. But if he refused, the collector would kill everyone in town. If he agreed to help, he would be responsible for future deaths. If he took the creature's place, he would become a monster himself. There's a fourth option, Marcus said slowly. What if I destroyed all of this? The collector laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Impossible. These memories are bound to me by magic older than this country. If the jars break, the memories die forever. And I would simply start collecting again. But Marcus was already moving. He grabbed his dropped lantern and swung it at the nearest shelf. Jars crashed to the floor, their contents spilling out like liquid light. The collector screamed and lunged forward, but Marcus was faster. He ran through the room, smashing jars as quickly as he could. With each broken jar, he felt something, a flash of someone else's happiness. A child's laughter, a lover's kiss, a mother's pride. The memories flowed through him and then disappeared forever. The collector was changing. With each destroyed jar, it became more solid, more human-looking. Stop! It cried. You don't understand. Those memories are all that remain of those people. Marcus paused, a jar in his hands. Inside, silver light swirled peacefully. They're not people anymore. They're just echoes. And it's better for them to rest than to be trapped here. He smashed the jar. The collector fell to its knees, gasping. It was looking more human by the moment, but also weaker. Please, it whispered. Don't take away all I have left. Marcus felt pity for the creature, but he didn't stop. He broke jar after jar, releasing decades of stolen joy. The room filled with light as memories escaped and faded. The collector grew smaller, more fragile. When the last jar was broken, the collector looked like an ordinary old man in antique clothes. He sat on the floor, tears streaming down his face. What have you done? He whispered. Set them free, Marcus said. Set you free too. The old man looked up at him. For the first time, his eyes were human. I remember now. I remember my name. Thomas Whitmore. I lived here 200 years ago. I was so lonely, so bitter. I never learned how to be happy. You can learn now, Marcus said gently. Thomas shook his head. It's too late for me. I've done terrible things. But maybe. He looked at the empty shelves, the broken glass covering the floor. Maybe now the town can heal. As dawn light began to shine through the tower's windows, Thomas Whitmore faded away like morning mist. His last words were barely a whisper. Thank you for giving me peace. Marcus climbed down the spiral stairs, leaving the tower behind. The carved names on the wall were gone, as if they had never existed. Outside, the sun was rising over Milbrook, and everything looked different, brighter somehow. In the weeks that followed, strange things began happening in town. But these were good strange things. People smiled more. Children laughed louder. Old arguments were forgotten, old wounds healed. It was as if the town's capacity for joy had been restored. Marcus kept his job as night watchman, but now his rounds were peaceful. No more footsteps in the tower, no more mysterious disappearances. The clock tower stood silent, its shadow no longer seeming threatening. Sometimes, on quiet nights, Marcus would look up at the tower and wonder if he had made the right choice. All those memories, gone forever. All that joy lost. But then he would see a child playing in the street or hear laughter from a tavern, and he would know. The living deserved their happiness more than the dead deserved their echoes. One night, about a month later, Marcus found an old journal hidden in the tower's foundation. It belonged to Thomas Whitmore, written before he became the collector. The pages told a sad story of a lonely man who never learned how to connect with others, who died bitter and alone. But the final entry was different. It was written in a shaky hand, and the ink was fresh. The night watchman showed me kindness when I deserved none. He gave me the only gift I had never received, mercy. I go now to whatever waits beyond, grateful at last. May Milbrook know peace. T.W. Marcus closed the journal and smiled. The dead were at rest, the living were safe, and the town was healing. His job was done. But he would keep walking those midnight streets, watching over his neighbors, making sure no new shadows fell across Milbrook. Because that's what night watchmen do. They stand guard against the darkness, protecting the light wherever they find it. The clock tower still stands in Milbrook today. But now it's just an old building, home to pigeons and morning sunlight. The townspeople sometimes use it to hang banners during festivals, or to store supplies for community events. And if you visit Milbrook on a clear night, you might see an old man with a lantern walking the quiet streets. The locals will tell you he's just Marcus Reed, their night watchman. But if you look closely, you might notice that shadows seem to flee from his light, and that his footsteps echo with the sound of protection rather than threat. Some say that on the darkest nights, when the moon is hidden and the stars are dim, you can still hear whispers coming from the tower. But these aren't the voices of the dead. They're the voices of the living, carried on the wind, children saying prayers, lovers making promises, families sharing stories. The sounds of a town that learned how to be happy again, watched over by a man who chose mercy over revenge, and peace over power. The sounds of hope, echoing through stone and time, reminding everyone who hears them that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let go of what you think you need, and trust that what remains will be enough. Marcus Reed knew this truth better than most. Every night, as he made his rounds through the sleeping town, he carried with him the memory of those broken jars, those freed spirits, that moment when he chose the living over the dead. And in his lantern's light, Milbrook dreamed peaceful dreams, safe under the watchful eye of a man who had learned that the greatest collection of all is not happiness stolen from others, but happiness freely shared among friends.